Good evening. Relationship anarchy. Letting connections be what they are. Hey everybody. I'm really glad that you're here tonight and I wanted to do a little something something different and not too dramatic. And I've been lately I've been really thinking a lot about um ways that we have been taught to think about relationships and the connections in general, um, and how they're actually more rigid than real life is. Um, I came across this idea again just recently called relationship anarchy, as you can see. The relationship anarchy symbol is the heart. Um, with the A in the middle. And what that means is anarchy with love. So relationship anarchy is RA. And here, I'll tell you what it is. It's a philosophy challenging traditional relationship rules by advocating for autonomy, freedom, and non hierarchical connections, treating all relationships, romantic, platonic, sexual, with equal significance based on mutual agreement, not societal expectations, prioritizing respect and individual needs over the set structure. So, as you know, anarchy is no rulers. And that kind of goes along with this. I mean, this um, is a different way of looking at what relationships could be. Um, there's no predefined rules like the ranks that people go through when they're in a relationship. Dating or getting engaged, getting married. Um, there aren't those. It's not so much in the box thinking um, in a relationship. So, I mean, the idea is really simple. It's the idea that relationships don't have to follow scripts, like pre-written scripts. They don't have to fit into, like I said, strict boxes. They don't have to be ranked. They can be shaped by the people who are actually in that relationship. Um, so instead of asking like, well, where are we? What are we supposed to be? It asks like, what do we actually want to build here? And I think that's a really gentle and um like a radical shift, because most of us grow up with a relationship ladder in our heads, and it's like one kind of relationship is at the top, then another, and each rung just comes with a script. And this is what this kind of relationship means. It's what it's supposed to look like. And this is what you're supposed to expect. But when you actually look at real life, connections don't follow ladders very well. Some connections are deep, but not traditional. And some are close, but not permanent. Some are steady, without being exclusive. And some matter a lot, even if they don't become a whole life structure. So, a lot of pain comes from trying to force real connections into the wrong um, shape. And it's not because anyone failed. It's just because the boxes are too small. The relationship anarchy says something really simple. It says, so no relationship has automatic rank. No connection has to justify itself by becoming something else. So it puts the focus back on the care, the honesty, um, the choice, the clarity. So instead of having labels and roles, it says that every connection gets to be its own shape. What's up, Blues? And this isn't about having no boundaries either. Boundaries are extremely important, but it is also, well, it's also not about having no commitments. So there's a commitment within this scope of relationships, and it's not about like avoiding responsibility. It's actually the opposite. So it's about choosing your commitments consciously instead of inheriting them from a script. It's about asking questions like, how do we treat each other? What do we give each other? And what feels stable here? What feels honest here? So instead of like, oh, what is this supposed to be? Where do we stand with each other? Where's this going? Or like, what does this mean in the hierarchy? And I think most of us have had at least one connection in our lives where you have not been able to put the relationship in some sort of a category. It just didn't fit into one specific category, but it still the relationship still mattered. And sometimes, like much later, you realize that it actually shaped you more than you understood at the time in hindsight. And instead of letting those kinds of connections just be what they are, we usually feel pressure to either upgrade them or erase them. Like RA, which is relationship anarchy, kind of quietly says maybe it doesn't need to become something else. Maybe it already is something. What I like about this way of thinking is that it takes a lot of the pressure and performance out of relationships. I mean, it replaces it with just caring for them, being present, choice and responsibility. It asks you to stop managing appearances and start actually paying attention to what's really happening and how the feelings that you have for the other person. And honestly, I don't have this all figured out. This isn't me teaching you something. This is me exploring something and letting myself question the idea that everything has to follow a template. I don't, I'm questioning that idea, like letting myself consider that maybe some connections just are meant to be important, but not permanent, close, but not traditional, meaningful, but not owned. I also think that this idea connects to something bigger, the idea that not everything valuable has to be hierarchical. Not everything has to be ranked. Not everything has to compete, or some things can just coexist. Curious what you think. Have you ever had a connection that didn't fit a normal category? Have you ever felt pressure to turn something real into the right shape instead of letting it be the shape it already was? I just want to give a shout out to CCM602, Crazy Dingo, and Vegas Valley. Thank you for being here. Have you ever, I don't think relationship anarchy is about rejecting the commitment. I think it's about choosing conscious commitment instead of automatic roles, choosing the clarity over the assumption. And we all know the 4 agreements. Don't make assumptions. That's the third one out of 4. Choosing to care for them instead of control somebody, or label them instead of labeling them. Choose to just be. And maybe the simplest version of it is, let's connections be built and not assigned. So that's really all I wanted to share tonight. I don't have a big conclusion or anything. It's just a different way of looking at something that most of us carry, like a lot of stories and expectations around. I'd love to hear your thoughts if you want to jot them down in the live comment section, or you can leave me a comment on my page. And see if there's something else here. Okay. All right. I just want to read these quotes. I think most of us have at least one connection in our lives that didn't fit a normal category, but they still mattered. And sometimes even years later, like, you realize that it shaped you, and they had a lasting impact on you. You weren't quite sure. You didn't really know how to. You knew that they were in your life, but you didn't know how to categorize it. Like, what this person's so special to me. What's the dynamic? With relationship anarchy, you don't have to label the relationship. I mean, most of my relationships have definitely had labels for them. But it's just a different way of looking at things. So that is it. Thank you so much for tuning in, and hit the notifications and look for me to do an open panel so that people can come up and discuss whatever is going on in your life. Maybe we'll just have like a chill panel, and talk about things in the world. There's so much really going on in the world right now that it's important for us to stay positive and stay close with each other, and not resort to violence. I know there's a lot of fear right now in the States, and this is the time where we really need to peacefully protest. Obviously, that's fine. That's our First Amendment. That's your right to do that. But when it gets to the point where it's just pure chaos, that's where we go wrong as a society. Hey, Roscon, how are you? Good to see you. All right. Well, that's the end of my show. So thanks again for stopping by, and we shall meet up sometime soon.